healed Avenger, and we just finished off Big Bigfoot last time. This one is the Big Toe Strikes. So in the sorry, we'll take that again. In the top floor of a non-functioning shoe factory sat a man of impressive physique. Dressed in a pinstripe suit and smoking a pungent cigar, he looked angrily at the man assembled at his call. The four men sat in a half circle in front of the ornate desk and waited. The man blew a cloud of rank smoke and growled out his irritable declamation. "You fellows aren't worth the price of a pair of used moccasins." His fist slammed on the desk. "I sent you out on job after job, and you mostly come up empty." His fist crashed again, making the ashtray jump. He brushed off the surplus ash and sat in judgment of the men before him. "This is going to be your last chance. Maybe the problem is you've been in charge with nobody doing any actual leading. Well, that isn't going to wash anymore. To see if you can accomplish anything, I'll choose one of you as the little toe. That'll be the go-between me and the others." Pointed at himself with the butt of the end of his cigar. "Me? I'm the big toe, and you better not forget it." He turned to look at one of the men who cringed under that contemptuous stare. "Wedge, you're the best of this slovenly crew, and I'm placing you in charge. You pull this one off, you'll be stepping easy. But if you fail, you'll be cast out like a frayed pair of old sneakers. Wedge, you hang here. The rest of you get out. Wedge will let you know what to do. And don't go wandering out of town again. When you're on my payroll, you better clear beforehand when you go hoofing off." The three remaining men slunk out, leaving Wedge and the big toe to talk in private. The big toe took a long inhalation of his cigar and blew out the smoke appreciatively. "Wedge, you got brains, and once in a while you get a chance to use them. When you do, things go better. That's why I'm putting you in charge of the next job. On 4th and Main, there's a truck. It's filled with shoes, plenty of expensive types, styles, and sizes. I want you to go to Paris Shoe Store on Halsted and do a swap. Bring the truck back with the real ones. We ship them back to the maker for a refund. The shoes you'll replace the real ones with are cheap knockoffs I have made for a song. If it works, we do swaps to some of the bigger name shops. Then we work up to Jimmy's shoes. We clear them, we'll be looking at $1 million with a nice part going to each of you. Get the guys and do the job right. I don't want them at the store to notice any difference when they come to open the place tomorrow. Now move." Wedge rose to leave when the big toe gave his final order. "And make sure you get a count of each type and size. I'll need that to put in the paperwork." Wedge nodded and rushed out. Well, Wedge wasn't having much fun with his current task. Picking up the truck and companions was a cinch. Getting to and opening up the rear of the store wasn't much bother either. Even turning off the alarm wasn't difficult. It was a time-consuming paperwork that fretted him. Working against the clock was part of the job when working with BT. But with a job this size, it was going to take a little longer than he had. He had to write down everything from 150 boxes. As the men unloaded the truck and made swaps with items on the shelves, he was making annotations of the required information. It suddenly hit him that he was going about this wrong. He had the truck fully unloaded with the shoe boxes and had them stacked on the floor according to type and size. As the truck emptied, he was able to list the type first, then follow the size and amounts. Once the inventory was completed, he had them do a swap section at a time. Wedge had one eye on the work and one eye on the clock. As the last Falk shoes went into the shelves, the real ones palletized, he saw they were cutting it close. The pallets were loaded, secured, and the door closed and locked. In the truck, Wedge prepared to leave when he was approached by someone who had driven into the parking lot back of the store. From the prosperous-looking suit, it was a good bet one of the managers had arrived early. Seeing a truck in the dock was puzzling them. The man approached the driver's side of the cab. Wedge pulled his cap down low, casting a shadow over the lower part of his face. With dark glasses and his face in shadow, it was almost as good as having a mask on. The man stepped alongside of the truck and looked up. "Hey, I didn't think we had a delivery for today." Bud shrugged and pulled out a sheaf of papers. Well, it says here, Parish Shoe Stores. Delivery for today, first thing in the morning. The man chuckled. You're at the wrong store. This is Paris Shoes. Paris Shoes is on Leamholm Street. About half a mile that way. He pointed down the street to the right. Wedge slapped his forehead. Damn it! First day on the job and I darn near tripped over my own feet. Thanks, mister. I owe you one. The man grinned as he waved them out of the dock. Watching them go off down the street, he continued laughing as he walked into the dock door and began the opening procedure. E.T. finished the paperwork for returning the stolen stock to the manufacturer. Wedge had done well, and the three were working as a team for the first time in a long time. This kept up, his criminal empire was going to become successful again. He sent Wedge out alone to drop off the palletized shoes and receive a check made out to Magnus Pelicum. Once he had the check in hand, he would take it to the Underworld Bank and cash it out. Even with the payments to his minions, he stood to receive a healthy return on his investment. Stage 1 was almost completed, and the stage was set for the next job. It was a week later when Magnus, aka Big Toe, met with the people who created the Fox shoes. He opened the factory and ensured the machines were ready. The man before him he had renamed Pseudopodium. He was an artist in fakes, and while they wouldn't last long, they would look as close to the real ones as possible. Whenever needed, the factory would be open and he would create whatever Big Toe asked for. The next load will be from the Valley collection. I need about 150 shoes of various sizes and styles. How soon can you let me have them? Pseudopodium, real name Calico or Calcio, the shoemaker, looked over his collection of dies and boxes. Valley's a tough one because of the calfskin leather. I'll have to wash some older leather in acid to break it down, then quick dry it. Say a couple of days to get the leather fixed, a couple more days to stamp out the sections, then about 5 days to sew and nail. Finishing takes a day for every 50, but if I cut a few corners, I can probably do it in a week and a half. For Bally's, the rate's going to be 15 per shoe. He looked up apprehensively. Big Toe was smiling and even gave an extra 2 days to ensure the job was done right. Calling in Wedge, he explained the next assignment. In the shoebox, Soleman was on the phone listening intently to the police chief. The Paris shoe store had a problem and needed his special knowledge. They were confused that the shoes they had in stock didn't seem quite right. Would Soleman please come and give them some assistance? No, Soleman certainly would. Getting the official shoe guide for the current year off the shelf, he joined Flats, who had already beat feet to the midnight stiletto. During the drive over, they discussed possibilities. Flats was unsure what they could do. How will we know if the shoes are right? From what I heard, they look identical. Soleman handed over the guide. Now, there are plenty of things to look for. Each maker has a stitch or way of sewing, tacking, or even leathers that are almost like a signature. Some even have a specific smell when new. Believe me, the people who say there's something wrong are saying it because their experience tells them so. During my time at Chernan's, I studied every shoemaker's manufacturing style. No matter how closely someone tries to make a copy, a professional can tell. Arriving at the store, they were guided to the storeroom. Several employees were slowly going through the inventory and separating the questionable shoes from those known to be authentic. Soleman compared the ones they had set aside with the notes from the guide. He also compared the smells of the shoes. Flats watched in awe as Soleman swiftly went through the remaining ones on the shelves, finding spurious pairs like a well-trained bloodhound. When he finished, there were 112 boxes separated. It's possible that some have already been sold. That is so, I would expect returns within the next few days. They'll be falling apart pretty quickly. The manager approached looking apologetic. If this was a case of swap out, I think I met the people responsible. Soleman spun around. What? Who were they? Well, I don't know that, but there was a truck parked here a week ago when I came in. The driver said they had a delivery to Parish Shoe Store, and I directed them to it. He said he was new to the route. I can't describe him. His face was in shade, and I couldn't see the other two men in the truck. Just seemed so natural, so I didn't give it another thought. It's not the first time we have had deliveries for them, and they for us. As for what we can do with these knockoffs, I'm at a loss. Flats reluctantly informed the manager that the fake shoes would be taken into the station for evidence. The manager did a quick run of the stock and put in paperwork for the insurance claim. A few days later, he was much surprised to find that the insurance wouldn't pay, as the items in question had been returned to the manufacturer, complete with his signature. An inquiry was begun for filing a false claim. Wright and the manager put in a call to the police for assistance. Since they had the alternate shoes, they might be able to help calling in the insurance office and explaining about the swaps. Once more, the chief called in Soleman and Flats. The commissioner was seated behind his desk while the police chief stood and offered explanations. Called the insurance company and sent photos of the items you pulled from the shelves. According to their records, the check hasn't been cashed and they have put a hold on it. New check will be sent to the store. In the meantime, we need to see what we can do about the perpetrator of the swap. Figure that with one success, they'll try again. Any idea where they could hit next? Soleman gave his careful consideration. Could I see a map, please? A local map was brought out and the pin was placed where the Paris shoe store was. Using a compass, he made a circle surrounding the shoe store and scanned for others that might tempt the thief. Usually a thief will stay within a 10-minute walk from their residence. For this type of crime, the distance could be triple since they have a vehicle. However, what limits the distance now is a question of time. This type of theft requires time since they have to swap same items and sizes. Closer they are to home, the better. I want to check if I missed a page here. No? Okay, sorry, we're still good. He marked off several shoe stores that sold expensive shoes and would have a large inventory from which to choose from. The police chief looked on approvingly. We'll have plainclothes officers at the locations you indicated. Commissioner suggested a few of the stores he felt would be probable targets. In the chief's office, they discussed the sites listed. Soleman was standing like a statue. Some idea had taken hold, and he was playing scenario after scenario in his mind. When he came to, he erased all the marks save one. The remaining store was Best Foot Forward, purveyors of high-class footwear. Soleman asked permission to use the phone and dialed BFFS's number. He spoke with a refined accent and a dignified mode of address. Good afternoon. This is Clive Jamerson from Bally's Footwear. We heard that your roof took some damage in the last storm and that your facility would be down for a considerable duration as repairs are instituted. We were wanting to inquire if you were desirous of returning the recent consignment for storage in our warehouse. There was a low response from the other end. Well, as you wish, but I recommend that they not be kept shrink-wrapped, but that a simple tarp be laid over the pallet to allow for air circulation and to mitigate any possible moisture dripping down. Another low response, and Soleman hung up with many thanks. It's as I thought. They are retaining the shoes they recently acquired. They'll be down for 3 weeks while repairs are completed. I'd expect the switch to happen soon, so they have more time before the changes are noticed to cash a check. The police chief put in a call for the plainclothes officers to begin continual surveillance of Best Foot Forward until further notice. He then went to speak to the commissioner and keep him in step with the proceedings. The commissioner was on the phone and upset by being interrupted. The chief was silenced by a glare from the commissioner. When the chief returned, he was upset himself. The commissioner thinks we're going about it wrong and wants us to work with the places he listed. He was a little rude about me calling you in, also. We'll have to do something to regularize you into the force. Back in the stiletto, Flats was a little disgruntled at the abrupt about-face from the police commissioner. I guess he doesn't want us to put our foot in the door. He slammed it shut on us good. Soleman shrugged. We'll be called by the chief when he needs us again, and believe me, he will need us. 2 days later, the expected call came in. Chief had been allowed to send one person just best foot forward. They had been there for 2 days and nothing happening. The commissioner was certain that Soleman had picked the wrong location, and he was fooling his people. Their floor is the type that sets off an alarm the moment you step down on it, so they're protected as they can be. Someone mentioned that he might pick up where they left off. The commissioner was dismissive. We don't need interference from after-shore sleuths. You insist on butting in where you aren't wanted, we'll charge you with obstruction of justice. It was a complete waste of time and resources. Before the call was cut off, someone heard the commissioner berating the chief for calling in a make-believe detective. The phone hung up with a thump. Someone sat deep in thought. We haven't heard from our two friends from a pair of pumps. This type of job would be right up their alley. Think about it. They drop in from the roof, tie up the pallet, and then haul it off the floor. No fuss, no muss. The delay could have been for prep work. He drummed his finger on the desk and stood resolutely. Come on, let's check things out. He put a quick call in to Podolsky to see if he wanted to join them. Receiving an affirmative reply, they arranged to meet at Best Foot Forward. Arriving as dusk was approaching, they climbed up the roof of the Walker Inn across the street. From the roof, 6 stories above, they could see clearly onto the roof of the shoe store. Soleman was nodding approvingly at the scene before him. Now, it's as I suspected, either Lightfoot and Pussyfoot or some other gang with similar skills are going to attempt the theft. The crane is only going to be used to lift up supplies for repairing whatever is being under the tarp, but it would also do at lifting a pallet outside through the roof and down to a waiting truck. From out of his pocket, he pulled a rolled up sock wrapped tightly in plastic. Handing it to Podolsky, he explained his part of the night's proceedings. They show, and I'm pretty sure they will, you'll be down at ground level, and when the truck shows, you ram this into the tailpipe. The truck will not start with that inside. Podolsky grinned at the thought of the look on the surprised crooks' faces as he dashed downstairs across the street. Someone looked on approvingly as the officer melted into the shadows. Flats, you and I will go up on the roof and hide behind the air conditioner unit. I really do have a feeling tonight's the night. The 2 men climbed swiftly up Best Foot Forward's roof and hid. They were fortunate that they had moved swiftly because it wasn't long before the sound of a large truck was heard closing in. Soleman and Flats climbed silently onto the roof of the AC unit to wait. It was also a good vantage point to see inside the storeroom. The sound of people opening up the back of the truck and a couple of people coming up the store ladder meant things were stepping forward. Flats let out a gasp and Pussyfoot's head came into view. She climbed over a parapet and was followed by Lightfoot. Lightfoot went over the controls for the hoist with Pussyfoot. I know what to do. I practiced quite a bit after Wedge put us up to doing this part. Don't worry, we'll be out in and out in moments. After we drop the pallet, we can vanish. Lightfoot wove himself into his harness and cinched it tight. Pussyfoot checked to ensure it was tight enough and hooked him up to the winch. Dangling, he looked over at her and gave her a thumbs up. Slowly he was lowered with a coil of strong rope. It was a lesson in controlled teamwork as he was maneuvered around the pallet, threading the rope to secure it. Pussyfoot raised him up to the top of the pallet where he secured the rope taut and added a ring. He twisted the rope so that it remained upright with the ring centered. Pussyfoot brought him up and placed him gently on the roof. The hook removed, she lowered it into position. Those by the truck were training their eyes on the roof. Podolsky scrambled to the rear of the truck and inserted the wrapped sock securely into the tailpipe. Sure that the truck would go nowhere, he made a quick run to the telephone box down the street. He was back in moments, moving with practiced stealth and hidden in his darkened refuge. He heard murmurs of irritation as they waited for the loaded pallet to be lowered. Placing a thick board on wheels underneath where the pallet would drop, they guided the spurious palleted pairs in position for the transfer. One of the crew turned to Wedge. "Are we supposed to wait for the other two?" Wedge shrugged. "Nah, boss said to leave them." "Truly," mused Podolsky, "there is no honor amongst thieves." On the roof, Lightfoot was divesting himself from his harness when a gloved hand covered his mouth, tripped him, and strong hands bound him. Pussyfoot was similarly dealt with, though with a gentler touch. Their capture had happened so swiftly and competently that they didn't have a chance to put up any resistance. The two were carried down the fire escape. Soleman and Flats were taking no chances on the two making another miraculous escape. As Soleman reached terra firma with his load, the sound of sirens was heard arriving in the distance. The men at the truck, with frenzied alarm, pushed the false pallet back onto the truck, slammed the rear door shut, and locked it secure. Diving into the driver's seat, Wedge cursed as the truck was unable to start. Bright lights from the patrol cars, spotlights, illuminated desperate faces behind the windshield. Laying together by the side of the truck were two trussed individuals dressed in close-fitting black. Attached to the rope with a shoe of lace was a small silver shoe pendant. To most people it would mean nothing. To Officer Podolsky, the meaning was clear, with the compliments of Soleman and Flats. Officer Podolsky was greeted with enthusiasm by his brothers and sisters officers, as if he had orchestrated this capture. He would have rather given credit to the two men he knew had done the lion's share, but had been told by Soleman to accept the praise alone. The next day's news was interesting reading for several people. Preparing an oedipus came the satisfaction of another case solved, and the elusive pair that had escaped them now firmly in the hands of the law. For Officer Podolsky came a promotion to sergeant. No mention was made of the part Soleman and Flats had had in the capture, but they didn't mind. At headquarters, now Sergeant Podolsky, explained the truth to the chief, who was justified, or rather rejustified, for his faith in the two he considered an extension of the force. One of the few people not pleased was a commissioner of police who somehow guessed the truth of who really orchestrated the capture. The other person was Big Toe, who had lost his crew temporarily, as well as a great deal of money from the creation of the spurious shoes. He would see that his crew would be released before the day was old. Whether he would try again with a swap, that remained to be seen. So that's it. Next one is a slippery slip up. So that's it for today from Soleman and David Booker. I appreciate you coming by. I hope you'll be here for our next reading. And that's it for today. So I look forward to seeing you again.